Imagine walking into your boss's office and giving notice because your writing has become your primary revenue stream. Or your podcast is successful enough that you can quit your day job. Or maybe having your marketing on autopilot so you can spend your time on the art career you love rather than on marketing. Are you a creative person who's great at what you do, but marketing makes you freeze? You're not alone. I help passionate, purpose-driven creatives overcome fear, find their brand voice, and build a marketing strategy that works for them. Oh yeah, I also make it easy and painless. It's never too late to grow the business you've been dreaming about. Book an introductory call with me, Rob Southgate, at southgatesmallbusiness.com today. And let's take the pain out of marketing together. Welcome to Ink Blots, the show where I interview authors about their lives, writing, and the books they love. Be sure to follow the Ink Blots podcast on Substack. Not only can you listen to the latest episodes, but our Substack also has interview transcriptions and links to books and other items that we talk about on the show. If you like what we're doing, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube. It really helps us and our sponsors out. Oh, and leave comments. We really do read and respond to every one. Now, let's get on with the show. Welcome to Ink Blots. I'm your host, Rob Southgate. Today I have with me Zach Ellenberger. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm really excited to talk to you. I don't think we've actually talked. All we've done is write back and forth a little bit. So this is exciting. This is new for both of us. Yeah. So Zach, let's start here. Why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, give a little background?
Oh gosh, yes. Who am I? Well, I am grew up in Pittsburgh, moved out here to Chicago around 10 years ago now. Started picking up on the writing thing seriously, I'd say about 2017, 2018. And before that, I used to play in bands and play music. So that was kind of my artistic outlet for the longest time. So I was playing in bands, did a lot of recording and stuff. And after a while, the music thing kind of started dying down when life was, taking its turns, and was missing that creative outlet, and found myself into writing because it was something that I was kind of, again, with the music, doing my own writing of music, so it was writing in that form, but wanted to really kind of take on that novel writing, and made the jump to that and put out my first book, which was a historical fiction in 2020, because history seems to be my other close love next to horror. So
okay,
and that's where it's kind of brought me to date. My thing has been trying to mesh the two, horror and history, my two favorite subjects, and that's what I've kind of been just banking everything on in my writing.
Sure. So that first book was Potato Kingdom, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And then you've got two more books I see on here: Shadows by Night and Past Lives. Is Past Lives the newest one?
Yes, actually, it's a novelette that I put out, I think, just this past June, I would say. Yeah.
And history and horror, what a great combination. They go together well. Was it always horror for you? I mean, like, I know you just said history, but I mean, like, you're reading your, like, things you were going towards. Was it always horror?
Yeah, I would say so. From when I was really getting into reading around my teen years, and I'm going to be that guy to just be the one to say Edgar Allan Poe. That
was my start too.
Yeah, exactly. My first love in horror, outside of watching horror movies with my brother as a kid, and just kind of nerding out on the old school kind of grindhouse gore movies from the late 80s, early 90s. But definitely Poe, Robert Louis Stevenson, and a lot of the romanticist horror writers was something that I think really got my first attention to horror. Yeah,
I get it. I totally get it. In fact, when I was that age, getting into it, that I had, 3 or 4 Robert Louis Stevenson on the shelf that I had the same feeling. And I had the big book. It was a collected Poe book.
Okay. Yeah.
That I kind of obsessed over. And like trying to discuss like Fall of the House of Usher with your friends, and they're going, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And you're like, but you have no idea.
Know this.
Yeah. And then, like, we read The Raven in class. I'm like, yeah, it's a great entry point.
Right.
But come on, man. I mean, it's amazing work. So with your writing, you said you were playing in bands before this. Were you dabbling in writing the whole time?
Yeah, actually. Actually, with Potato Kingdom, the first drafts I started writing on were probably as early as about 2012, 2013. And at the time, it was something that I was, again, just kind of writing for me at that point was almost one of those bucket list items where it was like, I want to be able to write a book before I die, you know?
Sure.
And I started having these initial preliminary ideas for a story. And at the time I was like, well, you know, maybe this could be something like script writing was sort of like the easy entry for me, I guess, into the long form writing. So I started with that, messed around with ideas, and there was that kind of self-conscious reflection of like, why am I even putting my time into this if it's not going to be anything? And I put it off for so many years and didn't revisit it again till maybe like 2016, 2017, and started picking it up again. And that's when I finally was like, all right, I'm dedicating myself to this. I'm going to at least put this out and see it to the end. And I did, which was probably the greatest feeling. Even though it's, you know, never going to sell what you want it to sell, obviously. But
no, but that feeling of opening that first box of books is crazy satisfying.
Absolutely. And just being able to kind of look at that and just be like, yeah, I put all those words there and put them in that order. That was my doing. And it was a self-published book too, which I did the artwork and everything for. So that was, you know, kind of the other revelation in this journey, I guess, became writing, getting into just having to do it yourself, getting into the nitty gritty of it, and kind of, you know, having to call upon design ideas and do that. But I mean, in the end, you know, it's such I think a self-gratifying feeling to be able to say like, hey, no matter what, like, this is fully my work. Everything I did was from me. Yeah. Outside of Amazon printing everything, the actual copies.
No, you're sitting there doing all the printing too.
Right. I'm waiting. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it became addicting. And it was like, you know, this isn't enough. Like, I gotta keep going.
Interesting.
And, yeah. I got the bug.
In your writing, has it evolved? I mean, I know it's evolved, but as far as like plotting, or are you a pantser? Do you just start writing and then you're like, oh, I see where it's going? And, you know, and has that evolved at all?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for the longest time, I guess I always felt my strength was like coming up with a pretty good concept of a story. Like, I have a great idea I think would work well, but where I struggled, I think, was flushing that out. Like, well, what's the story going to be trying to tell? Like, what's the point of the story we're trying to tell? What, you know, where is it going to evolve? Get into that actual climax of the story. What is the climax? So at first it was a lot of just like that pantsing it, just winging everything, kind of letting the story almost dictate itself, which can, you know, can be dangerous sometimes. You just start writing tangents, especially for someone like me who's so ADHD and just going to like follow every little click that's taking me in the wrong direction. But it has definitely evolved to, I think, where at first, at least in one way, where I was so concerned starting out in writing that I would never write enough. Like, oh my God, how am I going to write 40,000 words to even hit a novel length? Right. And here I am going, I can't hit a short story length of anything less than 5,000 words at this point, which is a wild feeling. But, you know, I think there has kind of been, I mean, there's been an absolute evolution of just ruminating with an idea a little bit longer to kind of let it build that flavor, and developing a formula that while it can still relate to a lot of writers, it's still unique to your own writing.
Right.
You know?
Right. That's the crossover when it starts to become your own.
Exactly. So, I mean, nowadays I still do a little bit of the letting the story try and dictate itself. But ahead of that, you know, I think I spend a lot more time prior to putting pen to paper, actually building outlines. That's been a very big thing, I think, that has helped me in plotting and building that climax. To just really list out all the story points for me to see. I guess, you know, I'm a bit of a visual learner in that regard. So having that outline, I think, has helped me to, when I hit those lulls and those kind of writer's block, to say, where is this going to go to next? I at least know that I have this outline that says, this is where I was thinking.
Yeah, you have kind of a roadmap that you can try to get back on track with. Sure.
Exactly. So, and that has helped me extremely, being someone that is just so distracted by the littlest notes that I'll give myself. Like, well, what if we build this idea? What's the theme? And I'm just writing too long on that. And then all of a sudden I forgot where the story is going. The story's about this when it was supposed to be about this. And, you know, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with writing those tangents. I mean, some of the greatest writing can come out of that, but, to bring it back around and keep that. I mean, Chekhov's gun is always my kind of like mantra, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
You know, bring it back around. If something's being plotted out in the beginning,
make sure it reappears.
Like, bring it back. Yeah.
So,
but,
yeah. So in what you're saying, I have a question that I often ask on here, but I want to see how you respond to it, because you are trying to, you sound like you're becoming much more of a plotter to help keep control of you. But your characters, do they ever disagree with you? Or are you ever writing and they start talking to you and go, yep, nope, we're doing this?
Yes. It's wild in that how the characters you write are coming alive and having a personality of their own.
Right.
You know, even when you do build out those outlines, I've certainly come to some situations where it's my next plot point is, you know, laid out before me, but I'm looking at the roadmap that I've brought to it and saying there's, you know, whether it's me or the character is saying there's no way that this is a rational decision for this character to follow. And then
but the character is telling you, yeah, I don't care if it's rational.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's it. And that's kind of like the other half of the mentality that you start to battle between like you as the writer and you as this character, because now you're when you've inhabited that mind and now they're taking that control and just like, well, I want my character to think in a rational term since that's where I'm at trying to build the story. When meanwhile, you've created a character that is in maybe no way rational to follow that decision.
It's kind of like I just watched Megan recently. You're building Megan.
I did too.
And then
the other day,
Megan's ready to do something completely different. And you're like,
right. Yes.
Wait, no, you're supposed to play with the kids, not chase people down a hallway with a knife.
Right. Yeah.
I always find that so fascinating because so many writers do say their characters dictate. And I know that when I've tried writing, that has definitely happened where you're like, nope, you're not this. And then they don't care and they'll fight you.
Yeah. You'll change entire endings and entire plot points over this one thing. And I know I had it. And I think, again, that was part of why it took me so long in getting my first novel out, between my own, struggle in being able to, you know, come to terms with calling myself a writer and writing it, but also with trying to build these characters and especially for me, historical fiction, I wanted Potato Kingdom to be so close to historically accurate that it was almost as if the main character was real.
Okay.
When in fact he wasn't. So the character is conversing with real historical figures. He's part of real life battles, and doing all of that research, wanting to kind of really stick close to the actual events of battles, where they were placed out on the battlefields and everything. And it was starting just to really, once it was, kind of creating its own boundaries, and to the point where it's like, it's almost like an AI taking over inside of you.
Right.
And it's just like, listen, this is what I want to do, or this is where the
Right.
mentality of this character is going.
Yeah.
So you got to work with that.
Yeah. I have a story that anyone that listens to the show has probably heard me either tell or actually heard it on here. There's an author that was on, and when I asked this question, they said, yeah, it actually just happened on a book where they were getting to the end and they were just kind of, it wasn't clicking and they were not satisfied. And then one of the characters started talking to him and said, I'm a female. And they went, no, you're not. And they went, oh, you are. And they went back and they rewrote those parts as a female and said it, all of a sudden the whole thing made sense.
Clicking.
It worked. It was like, I was trying to force this. It's so interesting how that happens. Like the mind of a writer and how that works. And I think that the best writers allow that in,
100%. I would 100% agree. And I think that can be kind of like the extraordinary thing about writing and how you discover things about yourself and maybe your interpretation of the world around you. Whereas all of a sudden, and especially maybe when it comes to talking about female characters from a male writer or male characters from a female writer, you kind of, in a way, I think I've been a bit surprised about, how trying to write stories has forced me as a writer to put myself in a different perspective. I mean, as a human, we can say all day long, like, oh, I can see something from someone else's shoes and whatnot,
right?
But to try and inhabit a person of the opposite sex, for instance, and trying to understand, a woman's plight during the 1800s and the all of the issues that came with that, and trying to respect the story while also respecting the experience of that individual. It can be really surprising and just like shocking sometimes, the things that you find yourself discovering.
Do you ever find these characters, I shouldn't even say it that broadly. I was going to say, do you ever find them that they stay with you? But actually, are there any that have really stayed with you? Like, you're done, I've written it, and you wake up in the morning and they're still there. And they're still there now. Yeah,
I would say so, yes. Shadows by Night, for one, I think that still kind of lingers with me, because of the theme of the story. And it's kind of a Western horror about this family moving out to a new plot of land that they purchased out in the Oklahoma territory, like following Civil War and everything. And they're being tormented and basically haunted by this group of skin changers. Okay. A lot of the themes behind that having to deal with post-Civil War, but also relations between Native Americans and the expansion of the U.S. at the time, and having the clash between that as kind of a strong background to the story. The main character for me was always, it still kind of sits with me, because I always want, like, for that story, I always felt like, did I do it justice? Did I do him justice?
Sure.
Because, his story is really one of trauma, and how it's sort of warped his perspective, between the culture wars of what's happening at that time and kind of what he's experiencing in this kind of visceral real life situation of kind of living on a frontier where at any moment you could either starve, killed by wildlife, or another
you can die of dysentery. We have all learned that.
Exactly. So, but on top of that, like kind of struggling with that inner identity crisis that might be present at that time, because it's for me, I'm always kind of obsessed with the idea of identity in another period of time. I think that's what's been my draw to history.
Yeah,
we can kind of see ourselves now and what how we kind of identify ourselves today in this modern time, but how would that compare 200 years ago, maybe 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago? That's something that's kind of always kind of been, I guess, the driving force behind following history.
Yeah, it's kind of like that concept of, if you were to go back in time, would you survive? Because a lot of people,
Yes.
A lot of times in media, you see the person from the past moving into the future, and it's like, oh my God, they're so shocked by everything. Would they live? It's like, yeah, you try going back to the 1800s,
right?
Well, you go back to the 1400s. Let's see how you do.
Exactly.
The minute Netflix doesn't boot up, you're like, oh, what did I do?
Exactly. Yeah. It's just like it's something that's always caught my attention, I guess.
Yeah. I love it. I think that's really, really cool. Your music. Now, you said you played in bands. What was your role?
So I played in bands as a drummer and a guitar player mostly, and backup singer.
Did you write music?
Yes. Yeah. When it came to the bands I was playing as a guitarist, at one point I was kind of the writer for all the music. When people had ideas and stuff, it will come to me, and I think it was because of my, again, being the idea of storytelling, plotting out a song, because they could have great riffs and stuff that come that they bring in, and it was like, I just don't have more to that to add. Maybe you got something, and I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's mess with it, play with it, because that was always, I guess, my focus when it came to the songwriting. Is like, we can have a great bit of a song, like a great section, but what's going to really make the song stick out is how it evolves, what's the story of that song going to be. So it was really, I guess it was kind of taking that storytelling approach within music for me. That was just like, okay, like I want to be like this.
Yeah. Do you find that, because music is a language in and of itself, do you find equations between sitting down to typewriter and writing music? Do you feel that there's a language part of your brain that gets affected that way?
Yeah, actually. And it kind of comes from that. I feel like it almost originates from the same area, and it could be different for anyone else, but for me, it would feel like at times having an idea for a story might come from, having a certain being in an emotional state.
Okay.
And from that, it's kind of like, following that emotion and building the story from that. Whereas in music, it was the same way for me. If you're sort of feeling this melancholic state and not kind of stuck in a rut, you're just kind of, those would be times that, I'm kind of feeling something that's a little bit soft, slow, a little bit more picking and drawn out, as opposed to like the angst and anger from teenage years, and having like a punk heavy forward approach to it. So it was really kind of, I guess, in a way, kind of listening to the interior of yourself, following the gut instinct. because I know there were times, and even when it comes to writing now, when you're like, okay, when you're very like, again, self-conscious of like needing more material. Like, we need more songs. If we want to put out an album, we got to put, bring some more music, get some more songs on the album to add. And when you're trying to not force it so much, but sometimes trying to structure things as you would in writing doesn't work as easily with music, because it's so much more about the feeling and the emotion.
Sure.
And just trying to ride that energy. It's very energy based in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a crap question. Who are the 3 authors everybody should be reading right now?
Ooh,
and I mean right now. Whatever comes to your brain. So if you go Edgar Allan Poe, okay, there we go. But give me 3.
Yeah, listen, I think the first novel that I really chose on my own to read as a teenager was a book called Just a Couple of Days by Tony Vigorito.
Okay.
And he was actually a professor at our school that we went to, Ohio University. My brother actually had him for a class, and I don't know if he did a lot more writing outside. He did a few more books. And I don't know if he's still doing a lot of the fictional writing, but Just a Couple of Days was a really great story that I absolutely latched on to when it came to that creative mindset. It's a story of, and hopefully I won't butcher the synopsis of it. It's a story of a college professor and scientist, and on this campus, there's this graffiti that shows up that just says "Just a Couple of Days," where the title comes from. And so in the days that follow that, there's kind of the professor is eventually brought on to this top secret project, pretty much, where they are trying to create an antidote for a bomb that is designed to destroy people's capacity to communicate. So the government has created this device that destroys people's ability to just talk, to communicate and interpret. And he is I forget what kind of scientist he is. He is hired to try and figure out some type of antidote that is able to revert the state.
Sure.
And what follows is sort of this experiment of understanding what they've created as far as a weapon, but also the sort of metaphysical discussion of like communicating, of what it is to be and being, and really digging into sort of philosophical.
Sounds like he opened your mind a little bit.
Man, it opened me up way too quickly. I was too young for that, but it's a phenomenal story, and he does a great job of telling it. It's a great ending. Aside from it was Tony Vigorito. Okay. I love Franz Kafka and the Metamorphosis. I can understand he can be a hard read for people. He's a very downer, but I tend to like him. I think the Metamorphosis is a great story. And gosh, who else?
Pressure's on, man.
Pressure is really on. Thomas Ligotti, more recent guy. He's also, and I still have a lot of his to read. But I have his Conspiracy Against the Human Race in my lineup, which I've heard is a very kind of soul crushing take, since he's actually a fictional writer, but the story is kind of his approach into philosophy.
Okay.
From kind of a writer's perspective. So it's very pessimistic, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've heard a lot of great things about him. And if anyone had ever watched True Detective, the very first season with Matthew McConaughey, and Woody Harrelson, the writing and and the themes and ideas come a lot from Thomas Ligotti and his story and his book, The Conspiracy Against the Human Race. A lot of what was discussed really kind of was built around what he was bringing in that book, and I'm really excited to get into that.
Sounds great.
Sounds great. Everything out of my way.
Okay, so we will put your links and everything in the show notes. Cool. We'll make it easy for people to buy your stuff. Zach, last question: what have you got coming up?
Let's see. Well, the Nightmare in Chicago Street is coming up. One of the books that I will be selling is the latest anthology that we just released earlier this month. It's Horton's Halloween Hauntings. It's an anthology of all horror themed from a lot of great indie writers right now. So that has recently just been released, and I'm working on a couple new stories. I have my own anthologies of short horrors that I'm going to be putting out soon. It's going to be Horrors in History, so a historical horror anthology.
I didn't pick up on that theme from this conversation.
I know it's tough it's tough to read me sometimes. Not like an open book or anything, but and beyond that, I've been working with a few writers. We've been tossing around the idea of starting our own print to help promote other authors that are out there doing the grind, fighting the good fight, and just kind of seeing it as our way of hopefully giving back to the community a bit. So we've been building that. Hopefully gonna have maybe a launch date sometime next year once we get more details ironed out. And outside of that, just more and more writing. Got to keep my nose on paper and pencil. So
sounds great, man. All right, you can follow Zach in the show notes. You'll get all that. It's Zach Ellenberger, and if you happen to be in Elgin Saturday night, tomorrow night after this is aired, come down and meet Zach and get some books and
be there.
Zach, be there. That's it, man. Thank you so much for being on. This is a real pleasure. I can't wait to meet you live and in person on Saturday.
Thank you, Rob. Glad to be here, and I can't wait to meet you too.